Sorry. Now, for those of you who don't know about Jim Wallis, his first book is Cold Case Christianity, which if you don't have, consider yourself undereducated. We're only going to talk a few minutes about what's in this book today. So you can go further by getting this book or DVDs, or go to his website, Cold Case Christianity, and sign up for his email and his blog there. He's been on Dateline 5 times for solving murders that are decades old, more than any other cold case homicide detective. And so, Jim, you're very familiar with conspiracy theories, and you're very familiar with the motives that people have in order to carry out a crime or a conspiracy. Yeah. Let's start with motives. What are the motives that people have to commit a crime or create a conspiracy?
Yeah, the only time anyone does anything they shouldn't do, they're driven by something. What is motivating them? And people like to think about that. And it's really quite simple. It's either going to be sex, money, or the pursuit of power. And that issue of sex, money, and the pursuit of power, that helps you to investigate cases, because you can actually go to motive and think to yourself, okay, well, who would have an advantage? Who would have something to gain from either sex, money, or power that might do such a thing, do this murder, do this crime, whatever it may be? And those really are quite simple motives. Now, people will offer sometimes, well, what about like jealousy? Well, what are you jealous about? What about vengeance? What are you feeling vengeful about? It's going to come back, if you drill down deeper, to one of those 3 motives for any misbehavior. So if you're looking at a large conspiracy that you think has taken place either today or in the past, one of the things you do want to ask is, why would somebody, what does it cost them to lie and set this in place? And then what do they gain? And what you're looking for in terms of gain is going to be in sex, money, or power. And of course, you also look at what the cost is, because if the cost is too large, it's less reasonable that somebody would do such a thing. But more importantly, you and I both know that I'm not somebody who says that there are no conspiracies that are successful. Of course, there are. The problem is you just don't know about those, because those never got caught. A successful conspiracy stays a mystery that no one's investigating. That's the success of it. But most conspiracies that we talk about and that are uncovered later, like right now, we have a political landscape where both sides are trying to argue there's a conspiracy or conspiracy. Well, if it's brought to light that people conspired to do something they shouldn't have done, the conspiracy failed. And the reason why it failed is because it didn't have one of the 5 things that we always talk about that are necessary in a conspiracy to succeed. So those 5 things are simple. 1, you have to have the smallest number of co-conspirators, because it's easier for 2 people to tell a lie than it is for 2,000 or 200 or 20. It's just easier if you have less people. So if you're proposing there's conspiracy involving an entire sector of the federal government and maybe even part of the media, I'm not going to go with that, more than likely, okay? Because eventually it's going to be uncovered. Too many people are involved. That's the second point. You want the smallest amount of time to hold it. It's easier to hold it, to tell a lie and keep a secret for a day than it is to tell a lie and keep a secret for a year. So if you're suggesting this is a conspiracy that's been successfully run for 60 years, some conspiracy theory from the past, I'm less likely to believe that, because these are things that are needed. Small number, short period of time. Third thing, excellent communication between co-conspirators. When conspirators get separated and tell separate stories, things start to break down. You have to be constantly talking to each other to say, what are you saying to everybody? What are you saying to the investigators? What are you saying to the press? These are things you have to constantly be in good communication with. And then the fourth thing is, if you can do this with people who are so fundamentally important to you that you would never betray them, usually that's family. Like if they got a conspiracy between a son and a mom, good chance people are going to die for that, because they love their mom or they love their son. But the less relationship you have, the less connectivity you have with the co-conspirator, the more likely you are to give up the ghost. And the last thing is, avoid pressure. Conspiracies that have been constantly investigated are far more likely to be exposed than conspiracies that fly under the radar and no one ever asks a question. So those 5 things are fundamental if you want to have a successful conspiracy. As a matter of fact, when I was an atheist and I was looking at the claims of Christianity, one of the things that's often offered by skeptics is that this entire thing about the resurrection is just a lie. Okay, well, if it's a lie, if it's a conspiracy, how large is the conspiracy? Well, it's going to be at least, 500-600 people, because we know in 1 Corinthians 15 that 500 people were available to the church in Corinth. Paul says to ask questions. Most of them are still alive. That's part of that early creed in 1 Corinthians 15, 3-8. We know that there's at least 120 in the upper room. They're trying to pick a replacement for Judas. It's not just the 12. That number of people who allegedly saw Jesus resurrected is very large. It's too large, if you ask me. Now, how long do they have to keep it? Well, they got to keep it till everyone dies. And that's about 60, 70 years. That's too long. Do they have a way to communicate? Can they? They get separated because we got, the apostles go all over the known world, the empire at the time. How well can they communicate? How does Paul know in Rome what John is saying in Asia Minor, what Matthew is saying in North Africa, what Thomas is saying in India? How do these people know to keep their story together? And are they under any pressure? Yeah, they're dying for these claims. Are they motivated by money, sex, or power? Again, if you ask me, do you think that the story of Jesus and the resurrection is a conspiracy? I'm always going to say, as you know, it's possible, because anything is possible. As if possible truths are sometimes in legal trials when judges are instructing juries, they're also called imaginary truths. But this is not a reasonable conclusion. So possible doubts, I should say, are something called imaginary doubts. But these are not reasonable doubts, and the standard is reasonable doubt. So for me, I knew that I wasn't probably going to, I'm not inclined to take the position that it's a conspiracy, the story of Jesus, because it lacks all 5 things that you would need in place to be successful. So you can throw it out there as a theory, but it doesn't mean it's a reasonable theory.